Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence. We go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun.
All right, guys. Today's date, November the 11th, 2024, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan. On the Frack We Got Here, we do take the events of the week and try to make sense of it all. Before we get started, guys, let you know that we are a news podcast. We pride ourselves on researching with the most reputable sites with award-winning journalism. We do not do sensational news like Fox News, The Blaze, The Daily Beast, wherever extreme left or extreme right you get your views from. We simply don't do that. At the same time, we do try to watch our language, but let's be honest, words do fly. At the same time, guys, maybe things that might be shown that might be too intense for younger viewers. So if your discretion is advised, aside from that, welcome. So I would be remiss if we didn't just go ahead and go right into, well, the debate. Why are we going into debate, guys? Well, we're going into debate because basically ABC did something so great that it must be recognized. And what I mean by that is fact-checking.
Credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born.
You did bring up something. You said she went to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify tonight?
Yet again, I said it at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fellow. And that is another one.
Why they're allowing them to come into our country.
I did watch all of these pieces of video. I didn't detect the sarcasm, lost by a whisker. We didn't quite make it. And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them
no
Republican.
Judge looked at it
and said
they said
no
we didn't have standing.
Fraud.
Crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But Vice
Excuse me,
President
the
Harris,
FBI they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. And I give tremendous.
Amazing, isn't it? We have been saying on this podcast, and others, not just me, others out there saying the debate format was exactly how it was last night, is exactly how we want it to be, because we wanted a debate with no crowds. We wanted moderators to basically hold them accountable, to fact check in real time, and the coup de grace of it all, mute the mics. That's all we asked in the debate setup. And you can't sit there and tell me that didn't work, because Trump, I hate to break it to you, Mr. Convicted Felon, he loves the simple fact that he, above all else, needs to actually have an audience. He's a con man. He works off a crowd. He has to have this. And it's so funny yesterday where he talked about before Madam Vice President Kamala Harris decided to accept the nomination to become the Democratic nomination for president. He was pointing at Biden. Oh, he's old. Oh, he doesn't remember things. He stutters. And yet, who was looking like the man that escaped the nursing home last night? And you can tell he watched a lot of Fox News. Reason being, folks, is because that's all he does. And Kamala Harris, let's be honest, wiped the floor with him because he didn't debate. He tried to bully. He tried to, bring up Biden. He did all the classics. Oh, Biden stopped the Keystone Pipeline, but he did this. Biden pulled out of Afghanistan. I would have never pulled out of Afghanistan. He's pulled all the classics. Why? Because it's worked for him in the past. However, when you're dealing with an educated Black woman, yeah, not so much. Even more so, she set him up for some rabbit holes, and he fell into every one of them. But what's so amazing about this is when everybody, the fact checking, this is what I was talking about. Anytime a candidate makes a statement, it should be immediately fact-checked in real time. Hold them accountable, whether it's Madam Vice President, whether it's convicted felon, hold them accountable, because that's what we wanted in this debate. We wanted them to hold accountable to what they said because they have to own it. These are two people, which really shouldn't be a debate, honestly, because you have a senile con man that's trying to avoid jail and an educated black woman trying to make history. This shouldn't even be a race. This should be completely one-sided. But again, Trump has his cult of people who believe that he's the right choice. And again, that cult is somehow growing in number, which is all the more reason why we need to be aware and active. But give props to Kamala, give props to Madam Vice President. She came in and sat there, and I mean, even in the beginning, she walked directly to him, handshaking, and Trump just almost ignored her, really. Wouldn't even really shake her hand, just go to the podium. That's how much he sees of her. And yet, between Trump and Vance, they can't figure out why they're not polling well among women. Y'all don't know how to literally be human beings, much less talk to other women. But hey, don't believe me? Look at the number of lies Trump told that even in CNN, they clocked him. And I guarantee the number they gave still being a little bit, well, nice.
It was not black that she put out. And I'll say that. And then I read that she was black. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs. The people that came in, they're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
Just a few of the claims, false claims, that Donald Trump made last night. CNN senior reporter, resident fact checker Daniel Dale is with us. You have been busy, my friend.
I have, sir. The fact check story of the night was the staggering dishonesty of former President Trump. I counted at least 33 false claims from him, and I think that might be a generous count, versus 1, maybe 2 false claims from Vice President Harris, though she did also add a smattering of misleading or lacking in context claims. Let's go through this wild list of false Trump claims, John. Some of them are just egregious lies. On the economy, he said tariffs do not raise prices on Americans. They do. He said his tariffs raked in hundreds of billions of dollars from China. Americans paid those billions. He said all of the jobs created under Biden and Harris are merely bounce back jobs from his administration. No, today's number is millions higher than back then. He said we have the worst inflation ever. No, the U.S. record is 23.7%. It is 2.9% today, down from a Biden-Harris era peak of 9.1%. He said there was no inflation when he was president. Prices actually rose a cumulative 8% when he was president. Then on immigration, he said migrants in an Ohio city, you heard, are eating people's cats and dogs. That is a baseless, debunked Facebook rumor, just nonsense. He said Harris is border czar. No, she never was. She had a more limited immigration-related diplomatic assignment. He said 21 million migrants have crossed the border under Harris. That is many millions too high. He said millions of people are entering monthly. There has not been a single month in the millions. He said many of the migrants are from foreign prisons or mental institutions. Even his own campaign has not been able to corroborate that. On abortion, he said every Democrat wanted Roe v. Wade overturned. That is just untethered to reality. Roe was supported by more than 80% of Democrats. Then he said every legal scholar wanted Roe overturned. A bunch of legal scholars have personally told me that they did not. He said Governor Tim Walz says it's fine to execute babies after birth. Walz never said that, and that is illegal in every single state. On foreign relations, he said $85 billion in U.S. equipment was left to the Taliban. That is a massive exaggeration. The Pentagon says the number is $7 billion. He said Iran didn't fund terror groups under him. Iran did, though its funding level did decline. He said he ended Russia's Nord Stream 2 pipeline. No, he did authorize sanctions, but after it was more than 90% complete and Russia resumed construction during his own presidency. He said the U.S. has provided far more aid to Ukraine than Europe has. It's the reverse. Europe has provided far more aid than the U.S. He said President Biden took millions of dollars from China. He did not. He added a false claim about Biden getting money from Russia. Again, nonsense. And he said Harris was sent to negotiate peace with Putin right before Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Not only did that just not happen, the Kremlin says Harris has never once even spoken with Putin. Trump said he rebuilt the entire military. He did not. And then attacking Vice President Harris, he said Harris was the first candidate to drop out of the 2020 Democratic primary. There were actually 13 others who dropped out before her. He said Harris previously said she wasn't black. total fiction. He said people don't attend Harris rallies. Thousands do indeed. He said people don't leave his own rallies early. Some do. And when it came to the 2020 election and its own legal troubles, he said there's so much proof the 2020 election was stolen. There is not. It was not. He said Nancy Pelosi turned down his offer of 10,000 National Guard troops on January 6th. There's no evidence she even got such an offer. It was Trump, not the speaker, who had the power to deploy the Guard. He said no judge even looked at the merits of his allegations about the 2020 election. Some judges actually did, and his side still lost those cases. He said the Justice Department was behind a variety of legal cases it had actually nothing to do with. And then a whole bunch of other lies on a variety of topics. He said crime is skyrocketing, is actually declining sharply. He said the Central Park Five pleaded guilty. They did not. They were wrongly convicted. He said those men killed someone. It was not even a murder case. He said he saved Obamacare when actually he tried to kill it and then weakened it. He said Harris has a plan to confiscate, quote, everybody's gun. She does not. In 2019, she supported a mandatory buyback of assault weapons in particular, and her campaign says she doesn't even support that now. John?
So crazy, isn't it? That of all that's been done, that man had so many lies that it's hard to keep up with. Now, to be fair, Madam Vice President, she did overstate and understate a few of her claims as well, but not to the level of what one Donald Trump did. Even more so that he still believes it. Even when fact checking was called in front of him, the first thing he sat there and says, oh, well, I watched it. So when confronted with facts, you still wanted to just still believe what you wanted to believe. So facts mean nothing to you, which we already knew, even more so to where even Trump and his Trump-like vice president nominee, J.D. Vance, decided to say that, well, animals are becoming more of a delicacy among Haitians, even though no evidence is there to support it. And he repeated the same thing last night.
Political climate of our times, this is a wild claim. Republican vice presidential candidate J.D. Vance, who has railed about a large influx of Haitian immigrants into the rather middle-sized town of Springfield, Ohio, posted, reports now show that people have had their pets abducted and eaten by people who shouldn't be in this country. And this claim, which focuses on kittens and ducks, has exploded in the far-right echo chamber, amplified by the Trump campaign, conservative commentators, Senator Ted Cruz, Donald Trump Jr., Elon Musk, and more. They are saying and or implying if you elect Vice President Kamala Harris, her immigration policies will put your pets at risk. But to be clear, this allegation against these immigrants is patently false. A far-right fever dream which could easily prey upon racist and xenophobic fears. According to Springfield city officials, there is no foundation for any of this. In a statement, they said, we wish to clarify that there have been no credible reports or specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community. Additionally, there have been no verified instances of immigrants engaging in illegal activities, such as squatting or littering in front of residents' homes. Furthermore, no reports have been made regarding members of the immigrant community deliberately disrupting traffic. Yet, when CNN asked Vance's office why he is pushing such a blatant lie, they said, Senator Vance has received a high volume of calls and emails over the past several weeks from concerned citizens in Springfield. His tweet is based on what he is hearing from them. But again, there is no truth to what he is hearing, and that is easy to check.
And it's true. Imagine the simple fact of the matter is you're telling a whole bunch of people, basically, hey, those immigrants that are coming in, well, they're eating your animals. Do you have any proof on that? Well, no. Even to the point where even David Muir, one of the moderators during the debate, had came out and said, we talked to the city managers and they're not getting any reports like that. So again, it's like you're being confronted. You're being confronted with the actual truth and you still refuse to believe it. Even J.D. Vance, who could have sat there and said, you know what, we probably got that wrong. We got it wrong. We just need to admit we got it wrong. But yet Trump doubled down, Vance doubled down. And it's amazing now that it's fear tactics. Nothing sells like fear. Ask any salesman, any person that sells doomsday prep stuff, that sells MREs and things of that nature. Nothing sells like fear. Oh, well, if the power goes out, we're all 3 square miles away from just absolute anarchy. Here, buy this product so you're safe. Here, buy this gun so you're safe. Nothing sells like fear. And so that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to sell the fear of these wave of immigrants coming through. And it used to be, well, it always changes. These immigrants are killers, rapists, serial murderers, things of that nature. Well, these people coming in taking away American jobs. These people are coming in and they're now they're voting, which is still stupid to me that Trump still says that, because illegals can't vote. And even though I know we shouldn't spend the brain cell power on this, illegals cannot vote. They cannot influence our election by voting. But if they have relatives here who are in the state, who are legalized citizens, they can vote. And trust me, they're paying attention to what we're doing. But again, what do I expect from a convict and a guy that likes chairs to actually be truthful about anything? And also, unable to talk to women. But to switch gears for a second, guys, and I apologize, I should start with this because we've had a lot of deaths lately, and outside of Frankie Beverly, who did pass away today, there was another man that also has went on to join the ancestors, and I'm going to admit this one hurts a little bit.
I shall pray for you morning and evening.
For over 70 years, he graced stage and screen with a voice that commanded attention.
Don't you try and go through life worried if somebody like you or not.
James Earl Jones was born in rural Mississippi in 1931, raised by his mother and his grandparents. As a child, he developed a debilitating stutter.
You never get over it, really. You simply learn how to work around it,
A high school teacher helped Jones find his confidence and his voice. He fell in love with the stage at the University of Michigan and debuted on Broadway in 1957.
Just on a block and then keeping him off me.
His breakthrough Tony-winning performance came as boxing champ Jack Johnson in The Great White Hope, which was later turned into a movie.
Because every time you push that pinched up face in front of me, I see where it done got me.
As his movie career grew, he continued acting on the small screen.
I,
the first celebrity guest on Sesame Street.
I am your father.
But it was a 2.5-hour voiceover session for George Lucas that changed his life.
So he hires a guy born in Mississippi, raised in Michigan, who stutters. And that's the voice, and that's me. I lucked out.
The role propelled him, or at least his voice, to worldwide fame as Darth Vader in Star Wars. For the next 40 years, he excelled on stage, winning a second Tony Award.
James Earl Jones.
And on the big screen, a Navy admiral in The Hunt for Red October.
I was never here.
In The Lion King.
You are more than what you have become.
The voice of a network.
This is CNN.
And the voice of all baseball fans in Field of Dreams.
People will come, Ray. People will most definitely come.
He received an honorary Academy Award, had a Broadway theater named for him, became a Kennedy Center honoree, continuing to work in new projects and revisiting classic roles.
I'm only brave when I have to be. May I have your attention, please?
On screen and in life, James Earl Jones was a king.
The goal wasn't to be a billionaire or to be a Hollywood star, to be a part of good storytelling. The goal was about that. I found you!
He found his voice, and we got a legend. Steve Patterson, NBC News, Los Angeles.
And again, rest in power, sir. I mean, look, my introduction to James Earl Jones was Star Wars and Darth Vader, eventually The Lion King, Mufasa, going back to watch Field of Dreams, The Sandlot. Coming to America. We can keep going down the list of this man's accolades, as all of us are out to remember him, but definitely condolences out to his family. But definitely, sir, he has led a life and will always be one with the Force. So again, sir, rest in power. Moving right along, guys. I know it's kind of hard to get away from that because I was like, dang, not James Earl Jones, not Mufasa. That's gonna hang with me. But imagine you are in Florida and you get a knock on the door. It's the police. The police are asking you about abortion rights being on the ballot and how you feel about it. You don't think this is weird, right? Because only in Florida where this is happening, where again, in Tallahassee, Florida, state police dictated by Ron DeSantis and his administration are going to Florida voters' homes to question them about signing a petition to get abortion rights amendment on the ballot in November. And this is the part that just bothers me a little bit. Why is state police going to Florida voters' homes to question them about signing a petition for abortion rights? Now, I know ever since Roe versus Wade had been eroded by the Supreme Court, some states have taken it upon themselves to trigger laws for abortion rights. Some states are going to keep their rights for abortion just because, you know, women deserve to have full autonomy over their own bodies without anybody's input, because, you know, they're, you know, here on How the Frack We Got Here, we're pro-choice. What a woman does with her body is their own doggone business and no one else's, because I guarantee if you said that to a man, there'd be riots everywhere. But it is amazing to me how Ron DeSantis is basically using his seat, using his administration, his power to send police. And I'm sorry, you could have sent anybody else, but you send police. Now imagine you sending out police. And I hate to say it's about law enforcement, but I've been saying a lot about law enforcement ever since on this podcast. When you send out law enforcement, it's like the manager reaching out to you on a random day. You know, no good news comes from management on a random day when they want to talk to you. In the same sense, law enforcement, when they're knocking on your door, is never a good sign. But yet, it is intimidation. It is the fact that, you know, Ron DeSantis doesn't believe in abortion. He believes that he's fighting a woke war. This is this former presidential candidate who flamed out when he realized people outside of Florida won't just, you know, drop to kiss his ass, and is now trying to go back and resume his daily dictatorship using police, which again, I'm still trying to figure out, how is that not an abuse of power? How is that not, considering the fact of the matter that you're using police to intimidate Florida voters about signing a petition about abortion rights being put on the ballot? Because here's my thing. If these so-called conservatives do believe in states' rights, then put that on the ballot and allow your constituents to vote. And if you're right, they'll agree with you. And if you're wrong, you have to hold up to the will of the people. But again, whenever it comes to dictator DeSantis, we know he's not going to do well. But unfortunately in Florida, as long as they keep voting for him, stuff like this is going to add up. And I'm sorry, when you're sending police who have an issue with de-escalation, it never ends well. And I say about de-escalation because Tyreek Hill had an altercation with Miami-Dade Police Department. And the two videos I'm going to show you, well, I want to show them first before I show what was the real problem here.
Hey, don't knock on my window like that, man. Why don't you have your seatbelt on? Don't knock on my window. Why don't you have your seatbelt on? Don't knock on my window like that, though. Like what? Don't knock on my window like that. Why you have it up? Don't knock on my window like that. Why you have it up? I have to knock to let you know I'm here. That way you can lower it and talk to you. Just get my ticket, bro, so I can go. I'm gonna be late, gang. Do what you gotta do. Keep it down. Hey, keep your window down. Hey, keep your window down. Keep your window down. I'm gonna get you out of the car. As a matter of fact, get out of the car. Get out of the car. Get out of the car. Get out of the car right now. We're not playing this game. Get out. 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 What part of blood is doing this? Hey, Drew, I'm getting arrested, dude. I'm getting arrested. I'm getting arrested, Drew. I'm getting out. When we tell you to do something, you do it. You understand? You understand? Not when you want, but when we tell you. Hold on, bro. I just had surgery on my knee. Bro. I just had surgery on my knee, bro. I just had surgery in your ears when we told you to put your window down. Chill, bro. Chill.
Okay, So that's one video where we see Miami's wide receiver Tyreek Hill basically being detained. And here's another video.
I'm getting arrested.
Miami-Dade police releasing new body camera video that shows what happened Sunday when officers pulled NFL star Tyreek Hill from his vehicle, shoved him to the ground, and put him in handcuffs, not far from the stadium.
It went from 0 to 60 immediately, man.
The Miami Dolphins wide receiver sitting down with NBC News, along with his wife, speaking out on the incident that started when he was pulled over on Sunday.
You're speeding. Don't knock on my window like that. Why you have it up? I have to knock to let you know I'm here. Don't knock. That way you can lower it and talk to you. Just get my ticket, bro, so I can go. I'm gonna be late, gang. Do what you gotta do.
In the video, you can see Hill roll up his window. He's ordered to lower it again before the situation quickly escalates.
Get out of the car. Get out of the car right now.
The seat go down. So it's almost like you got to push up to get out. You know what I'm saying?
When we tell you to do something, you do it.
That officer, obviously he was having either a bad day or he just wanted to have a power trip over me.
Miami-Dade police have ordered an internal affairs investigation and placed one officer on administrative duties, but did not ID them. Hours later, Hill scored an 80-yard touchdown in the Dolphins' season-opening win.
Oh, he's a ghost!
Celebrating like this after the TD with a mock handcuffing on the field.
What message were you hoping to send with that celebration?
Like I said, man, you got to learn how to laugh and have a good time, man.
Some of Hill's teammates stopped to help. One of them, defensive lineman Calais Campbell, was also temporarily detained. Hill believes the incident could have ended differently if he were not a superstar athlete.
Worst case scenario would have been shot, or either you'd have been locked up.
The Dolphins have called the police officers' actions towards players, quote, overly aggressive and violent. A representative for the union that is representing the officer on administrative duties says that Hill was, quote, very uncooperative, and that led to his being, quote, redirected to the ground. The union adding the officer who was put on administrative duties is a roughly 25-year veteran of the department. Savannah.
Okay, so let's get to the part here. So both sides of the video I want to show because, yes, Tyreek Hill was a little standoffish. We've all been standoffish with law enforcement. Doesn't excuse his behavior. Because simple fact of the matter was, he could have sat there and said, like most folks, we'll start cordially. And I know I have law enforcement, how officer, how you doing? And of course, officers sit there and say, usual officers say, I'm so-and-so with said police department, badge number such and such. The reason why I pulled you over was because of A, B, and C. Now, if you know you did it, then say, oh, yep, officer, I apologize. That was me. Sorry about that. And of course, license, registration, proof of insurance. In a perfect world, that's how it would go. If you're cordial, I'm cordial. Now, Tyreek decided to say, go, man, go and write me my ticket so I can go, man. I admit, some players have some attitudes toward law enforcement to where it's just like, you pulled me over for this bull, man, just go and write me a ticket. And the officer at first was like, look, I just want to roll your window down so I can talk to you. Roll your window down so I can talk to you. I mean, okay, understandable. It's when the other officer comes up, because now it's like you went from 0 to 100, where it's like, roll the window back down. And the officer says, the second officer comes to back him up. It's almost as if like, why did the aggression level go up about him not rolling the window back down a second time? Even more so, why did you feel the need to take him out the car so aggressively? And so that's the part I'm going to him on. Yes, Tyreek Hill was wrong in how he spoke to them. How he spoke was very standoffish. I'm not defending him on that. That's exactly on him. What I'm getting at is the officers. And again, it's always interesting when they say, well, it's just an officer that had a bad day. And I say it all the time. Officers can't have bad days. Officers can't have bad days. The reason why I say officers can't have bad days is because you are constantly around the public. You are armed. You are empowered by the city to detain and serve and protect. If you're one of these officers that are not trained properly, which most of them aren't, that literally go through the police academy in less than 6 months, you train longer to be a plumber than you do to be an officer. I have yet to see one law enforcement officer tell me I'm wrong. But when you're not trained, or you're trained to be aggressive, or you may not have the mental fortitude to get through a shift as a police officer. I'm sorry, your bad day and a police officer's bad day can equal somebody's life being lost because that officer was having a bad day. And officers, you cannot have bad days. There are just some professions that can't have bad days. Airplane pilots, crane operators, school teachers. You can't have bad days when your bad day affects others. That's all I'm saying. Now, again, of course, the police union officer will sit there and say, well, that officer's a 22-year veteran and he was only dealing with somebody who just was very uncooperative. See, you can't say that to a certain point because there are certain trigger words now that we've seen too many black men get killed at the hands of police, and it's always been all the same thing. Well, he was uncooperative. Okay. Well, he was cooperative, but he still got killed. Okay. He told the officer had a gun, and he still got killed. I said, do you see where I'm getting at with this? With all of these former deaths, that all these men weren't quote unquote weren't uncooperative. They were trying to be cooperative. You had officers who had bad days to where it led to those men not going home. And yes, Tyreek did, I thought it was in poor taste that he decided to do a handcuff celebration after his touchdown because it's almost as if he's not taking the situation seriously. And at the same time, expect him and the Miami Dolphins to do some sort of collaboration with Miami-Dade to show there are no hard feelings, and maybe a slight donation to the Dolphins charity fund from the police department to smooth things over. But that's exactly what's going to happen. But it doesn't take away from the fact that yes, as people of color, we may not like law enforcement, but at the same time, we do treat it that every time there's a traffic stop, you can't help but wonder if you're going to make it home at night, or you pray that the officer's in a good mood. Just saying. But moving right along for a second, guys, I did want to catch video because, again, with the Georgia shooter Colt Gray and his father Colin, who are now being charged with murders, a lot of people are saying that Colt Gray was actually being visited because, again, there was talk about this boy and his mental issues and the fact that we did find out that his father did gift him a gun at Christmas and taught him how to shoot it. What kind of father gives a firearm to their child for a Christmas gift and teaches them how to use it? You are raising somebody who has firearms training and knowledge and is not in the right state of mind to obtain it and to use it and to have it. But here's the crazy part. This is the video to where they did a welfare check on it, and you can see where I'm going at with this.
Any kids or anything living here?
Yeah, Colt Gray.
Colt?
Yeah, Colt. He's my oldest son.
How old is he?
He's 13.
Does he play a lot of video games and stuff?
Yeah, he does. Play all the time.
Is he here right now?
Yeah.
You think it's something you might have?
I damn sure want to know.
Can we talk to him?
Yeah, absolutely. Now look, he gonna get all red face when you talk to him. Just calm.
Do you have weapons in the house?
I do.
Are they accessible to him?
They are. I mean, there's nothing loaded, but they are down. We do a lot of shooting. We do a lot of deer hunting. He shot his first deer this year. I don't know anything about him saying like that, and I'm gonna be mad as hell if he did. And then all the guns will go away, and they won't be accessible to him. I'm trying to be honest with you. I'm trying to teach him about firearms and safety and how to do it all, and get him interested in the outdoors. Mm-hmm. Like on my phone,
get him away from those video games.
Exactly right. And whatever y'all telling him, please instill in him that if this is whatever or wherever this is coming from, it's no joke.
No,
like it's no joke.
But we wouldn't be here if it was.
No, I know, and I'm telling you right now, we talk about it quite a bit. Okay. All the school shootings, things that happen.
Yeah,
scary. Hey, are you getting picked on at school? He is. He's getting picked on at school, and is everything okay? That's why I keep going up there.
So did your dad kind of explain everything to you?
He said something about shooting up a school.
Did you say something about school shooting?
Never. I just told him, I don't know what. Maybe they misheard somebody else. I would never say I was threatening them to shoot.
You never ever said.
No, I swear.
Do you use Discord?
Discord?
Yes, sir.
I used to. I don't have it.
When's the last time you used it?
Like a few months ago.
Really?
Was it at Traditions or was it here?
No, it was at Traditions because, and that Discord account that I had deleted it
Before you moved here?
Yeah, because I think it got like admin password pulled or something. Like I clicked on a link and somebody.
Have you heard anybody on Discord when you were using it say something like that? Remember?
Like at that time?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I don't think I ever had anybody that.
Never. And I mean, I'm not trying to get anybody hemmed up, but like, this is some serious stuff.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, he knows how serious it is. Trust me.
He's telling me he didn't. He's telling me he can't remember anything like that. And I take you at your word. Okay. If you look me in the eye and you tell me that's what you're telling me, I got no choice but to take you at your word right now. But
yes, sir.
But like I was telling your dad, if you find out otherwise, then it's a different story. Okay.
It's a really different story.
So, long story short, they had one officer go to make a welfare check on this kid because, again, there was tips. He was being informed that this kid may shoot up a school. Of course, his father decided to literally be the barrier and go, well, just know when you're talking to him, he's not right. That alone should have been a dead giveaway. When the parent tells the officer, hey, yes, I got my kid a gun. Yes, I trained him on it. Hey, but when you talk to him, just, he's a little, should have been a dead giveaway. Because an officer, I'm going to be like, well, why does he have a gun? If his mental state is not all the way there, why does he have a gun? Why do you need to sit there and tell me, if I'm a law enforcement officer, before I talk to your child about stuff that we received on him, why do I have to sit there and treat him like he's about to jump off the ledge? That alone should have been a dead giveaway. And it's that same kid who shot up a school in Georgia. And his father, who honestly should be charged for more than what he has, should be under the jail. Because, look, I'm a firearms owner. Do I believe that my kids should have firearms? Hell no. Not while they're in my house. Now, granted, when they're older and they're out on their own and things of that nature, completely different story. But under my roof, no. My children should not have access to firearms because of the potential danger. Much like a lot of things out there, they are not equipped. They are not mentally capable. They're not an adult. They're not. So we should not be trusting kids with gun safety and gun training unless they're adults, because at least they've had time to develop. We've had time to screen them and things of that nature. And again, I can't knock the officer because the officer's like, I got nothing to go off of except, the crazy red flags the father was giving off. But the fact he sat there and said, I have nothing. I said, I have nothing else to go off of, but if I find out differently, I'm back here. Why not? This is the reason why red flags laws would have came into place here, because under red flags, if there is an inkling or a hint that this person in question may be unstable, firearms can be removed as a precaution. Does it suck? Maybe for them, but at least then we'll find out whether or not they're going to do what they say they're going to do. At the same time, psychiatric evaluations will be needed. But since there are no red flag laws in Georgia, that's what happened. But it's amazing when you look at the welfare video they pulled up on this, and the fact of how the dad spoke about the boy, that alone should have been a dead ass giveaway. But what do you expect? Law enforcement serve sometimes. Moving right along, guys. Government shutdown is 3 weeks away, so let's play kick the can down the road again.
Lawmakers returned from summer recess, but they went right back to the looming threat of a government shutdown. The deadline for a deal to fund the government is September 30th. Republican Speaker Mike Johnson's proposal to avert the shutdown is drawing pushback, not just from Democrats, but also from several members of his own party. We're joined now by NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Ali Vitale for more on where things go from here, a place we've been many times, Ali. It seems like this inevitable path toward a stopgap bill to keep the government open past the election. What are the biggest hurdles Congress has now as the September 30th deadline approaches?
Yeah, look, new semester, but same cliques and same drama. It's all pretty predictable at this point, especially because we knew that when Speaker Johnson and other members of Republican leadership first put out their plan to avoid a government shutdown, we all really considered that the opening offer, but definitely not the one that was going to be taken. Now, we'll see by this afternoon when they're supposed to hold a vote on this bill if ultimately they are able to do so, or if they let it fail on the floor. That is an embarrassment to leadership, but it's certainly something that this Republican majority has sort of grown comfortable with as they really have things try and fail in full view of the public on the House floor. Again, not the normal way that things are done, especially not coming off of the Speaker. Nancy Pelosi does not have the votes from Republicans, which it does seem like he has a vote total problem. And we'll see if he's able to assuage anyone in their conference meeting this morning. But if he's able to do that, is it enough? But also, where are Democrats on this? Because there's two problems. The first is when they're trying to fund the government till, at least in a stopgap time. Typically, these end of the year shutdowns are averted by saying, okay, we'll handle this in November, maybe even December. It becomes a holiday problem. This year, what they're trying to do is push it to March. Many appropriators say that's too far. The other piece of this is they're trying to add the SAVE Act, which effectively prevents non-citizens from voting, which is already illegal. Democrats not on board for that. Some Republicans not on board for that. And that's where the problems lie.
What did we hear from the floor as lawmakers debated this potential short-term funding bill from Speaker Johnson?
Well, we heard Senator Schumer come out immediately and forcefully saying this is not the way we're thinking of doing it in the Senate or as Democrats watch.
Speaker Johnson's slapdash continuing resolution isn't a serious effort to fund our government. If House Republicans were serious, they would sit down and craft a bill in a bipartisan fashion, consulting with me, the House Democratic leader, and the White House. And they would consult a bill that in a bipartisan fashion would actually achieve our common goal of funding the government.
Because, of course, the thing you have to remember here is the House is going to do what the House is going to do, as it always does. But then it goes over to the Senate, and they like to put their own imprimatur on things. They like to do things their own way. And a lot of senators have said they're not on board with the way that Johnson wants to do this right now. That spells problems all around.
Right, the election is quickly approaching. A shutdown could close federal agencies, national parks, furlough millions of workers just before November 5th. I got to feel like that's going to influence something here, right?
You would think, but there are some Republican lawmakers, albeit they are in safe red districts, who said they're okay with shutting down the government if it means upholding their view of fiscal values. Now, a lot of Republicans don't share that. Democrats don't share that. And I can tell you from covering these past government shutdowns, the only people who are hurt are Americans that aren't in the building okay with shutting down the government. So certainly that is going to be in the water, and why these September shutdown deadlines in election years are always so thorny. It's always a tough issue, but the election politics only makes it worse.
All right.
So what's crazy about this is whenever it comes to shutdowns, it always comes down to, well, basically you have your conservatives that want to say, well, we need to stop, we need to shut our, we need to shuffle our spending. Where Democrats are like, look, unless we spend this, all these programs get impacted. But let's just think about this for a second. You have conservatives out there that are okay with government shutdowns. People don't understand. See, when government shut down, government assistance, jobs, things of that nature all stop. Well, except for senators and representatives. I mean, they still get paid. All the benefits and things of that nature still runs for them. But they don't get halted. And I've always sat there and said this, that for representatives and senators in the government, your salaries, your pensions, your health care, all the above should be tied to the government, should be tied to the government running. Because the government shut down, why should you be paid? Why should you still get protection if you have a detailed protection? Why should you get all these things when other Americans who may be expecting assistance with daycare or Social Security, things of that nature? See, the problem is when those government entities shut down, the jobs shut down too. Government workers get on furlough. Yeah, working for the government's fine as long as it's running. But imagine when it's not running. That's the problem. And it always comes down to the fact that we have a Senate controlled by Democrats and a House controlled by Republicans. Unfortunately, there will never be until we actually have, and I hate to say this because everybody says it's a two-party system. It's not a two-party system. We actually have multiple parties, multiple political parties. We just have that the Democrats and Republicans are the two most financially backed parties out there. But as long as you have one party that controls one part of government, another party controls the other part of government, and pretty much the presidency can become a coin flip between one of the two. As long as that's also in disarray, the government, as far as funding itself, will always be problems. So what do? Do a stopgap measure. Let's get back to this 3 months, 6 months down the road. And that's why I keep on saying this, kick the can down the road. Because honestly, when we had, and I hate to say this, when we actually had a majority of Democrats, and I hate to say that because it's true. Whenever we have a majority in the House, in the Senate, and we have a presidency, you never heard of government shutdowns. You don't. Except when it's Republicans, because Republicans will always fight against themselves. And because they're fighting against Democrats, they'll forget that, hey, they're Democrats. Let's join up and fight them. But I hate to say this because whenever it comes to the budget for the government always becomes a question. And around election time, you really cannot afford to actually have that happen. So again, and especially with the speaker at the time, Mr. Johnson, I think you're finding it very difficult how hard Kevin Neely's job was before you. Because you got hatred on both sides. You got Republicans that can't stand you and Democrats that don't like you. And yet you thought you could do a better job as House Speaker. Yeah, good luck with that. Moving right along, guys. U.S. Steel is about to get sold to Nippon. Again, as the executives are sitting there saying that, us selling U.S. Steel to Nippon Steel, a Japanese country, will save American jobs, Biden and the other unions are trying to stop the sale.
U.S. steel leaders standing in the middle of a rally at headquarters today talking about the investment not just into the company, but the communities if the sale to Nippon Steel happens.
And without these investment, without this merger, I am very concerned with the future here in Pittsburgh.
That is the concern, as Nippon promises upgraded facilities and equipment to keep these plants at the top of the steel game. But if the deal falls apart, as many are speaking out against it, U.S. steel leaders don't believe it can keep up as a standalone company.
And now we're going to have a 1938 hot strip mill trying to stay competitive with hot strip mills that were built 10 years ago. You can do the math and see what happened. I mean, it's the same fate that happened with Duquesne, with Homestead, with Aliquippa, with steel mills on the south side.
The potential acquisition continues to be under scrutiny as political leaders have concerns over national security implications.
Look, the federal government will ultimately make the final decision as to whether or not the U.S. Steel Nippon deal goes forward. My focus has been and will continue to be on protecting and growing jobs in the Mon Valley and all across Western Pennsylvania.
While many signs at today's rally showed people over politics, the deal is a talker in the political world, with both the president and vice president speaking out on Monday to keep U.S. Steel American-owned.
When you're in Pittsburgh, you're standing with steel workers. Let's be clear. I believe in American steel companies, American-owned and operated steel companies.
So yeah, it's just the thing. Like I said before, whenever companies go overseas, they get there and say, "Well, we're trying to save jobs." Well, here's the problem: we're trying to save jobs. The actual optics of it don't look good because look at most track records. We had textiles. Textiles went overseas. We had fabrication that went overseas, and some went to Mexico. And now you have U.S. Steel. U.S. Steel may wind up being owned and going overseas. And we have said many times on this podcast, the problem with the state of business is that competition overseas, that's undefeated, especially with costs of materials, the fact that they don't have to worry about paying their workers, as much as they pay American people, the fact that exporting is a lot easier than importing. Overseas has figured this out so well, they basically turn America from an exporter to an importer of goods. And now you have probably one of the last steel companies, steel industries, going possibly to Japan. And I'm sorry, I just don't see how jobs are saved. At the same time, this is what we're talking about. And you would think, and here's my thing. You would think, and I was like, conservatives, here's how I know you don't care. The reason why I know you don't care is because no conservative is talking about what U.S. Steel is doing. I have yet to see one conservative out there sit there and say, I don't like the fact that an American company is about to be sold to a Japan-owned company. What happened to the American workers? What about their coverage? What about their things? I don't think that business should be able to do that. I have yet to hear one conservative say spit about it. And why do I say that? Is because they don't freaking care. When it comes to conservatives will sit there and say everything but you want to hear. They'll sit there and say, well, I think that we need to champion small business, but don't get plans for small business. Madam Vice President's already sat there and said she wants to be able to allow small businesses to write off up to $50,000 of their startup costs. So that's a plan. But I have yet to hear a conservative sit there and say something about business unless it's DEI. Because trust me, when Harley Davidson, John Deere, they all announced DEI programs, and now all of a sudden conservatives want to speak up. That's bullshit. But I digress. We will see what happens, whether or not the sale does go through or not. But the last story I got, guys, is again for Boeing. I know we talked about Boeing a lot. From planes that are just completely untrustable to parts falling off to where just last week we talked about a potential strike, and yet Boeing got smart. Boeing and union did reach a labor deal to where they included 25% raises over the next 4 years and improvements to healthcare costs and retirement benefits. Now, again, this has to go before the vote. The union workers for Boeing have to go over it and have to vote to make sure it goes to make sure it becomes active. But let's think about this for a second. I've said this all the time whenever it comes to union strikes. It always comes to pay, benefits, retirements, 401ks, sometimes paid maternity leave and things of that nature. But the number one thing is pay. Pay folks what you owe them. It's not that freaking hard. People want a living wage. Here's the thing. I'm not trying to probably believe people do not want to work multiple jobs. People don't want to do side hustles unless it's just for extra money or you got a plan or you're trying to save up for something. But for a good majority of us Americans, we're happy with one job. If one job pays all our bills, if one job sustains us with a house, if one job sustains us with a car, utilities, things of that nature, we're happy to work one job. But it is amazing to me that we don't have more unions. Unions work. I keep saying that. Only because I've yet to see where having a union actually backfired. Because again, I told you about Michael Dell, and I can say it now because I don't work at Dell anymore. He hates unions. The Amazon Shadow Corporation hates unions. They're too busy trying to bust union practices in other areas. And again, I can keep going down the line. They keep on saying, well, why do you need unions? You can talk to us. Let me tell you this, if you can hear my voice. Never think that you can negotiate with the company that you work for by yourself. You are a lot stronger in number than you are in solidarity. Because trust me, they'll get rid of you if they think everybody else is fine. But it's hard to get rid of everybody when it's your workforce. That is all I'm saying. And the whole threat behind Boeing is we have plan B's in mind. Apparently not, because they can't replace all of you at one time. And executives, it's like I said, you want to hit executives and you want to get corporations' attention, hit them where it hurts. Their pocket. They hit them where it hurts, their wallet. But again, happy that it does work out. Hopefully the union deal they received will be good, and hopefully those people get paid, because that's all people want. They want to be recognized with the pay, not with stupid pizza parties from the cheapest place you can find. Not that I'm speaking from experience, but we're going to go ahead and move on, guys, for our feel-good segment, because usually how the Frack We Got Here, we usually cover a lot of things that are doom and gloom. Sometimes I might use faith in humanity, but hey, it's Wednesday, it's hump day. Tomorrow is Friday Eve, which is Thursday. We will leave you guys out some good vibrations. And I love stories where folks come together for random acts of kindness. I mean, it could be food, it could be a card, it could be just trying to make somebody's day. Because in this case, this custodian was surprised about what kids at the school that he works at did for him.
I can't believe this. Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. I'm not kidding.
And again, I can't knock that. That was basically a custodian that worked at a Virginia high school. And yet the kids decided that they were going to basically raise money to buy this man his very own dream Jeep. As you can see, he was very overwhelmed and thankful. And like I said, just the thing about it is, it's just doing something nice for somebody. And you can definitely change somebody's day around. I will say that first and foremost. You will not know the power of just being kind and just doing a random act of kindness. And trust me, you can turn anybody's day around. But good on those kids. But that's going to do it for this podcast, guys. I do thank you all for liking, for watching, for letting people know this is live. I certainly appreciate that. Some shameless plugging before we do get out of here. Again, I cannot talk enough about the fact that we are less than 54 days away from the election. And I'm going to stress this again in case you don't know. Please go to vote.org. Vote.org will literally help you with everything you need to know. I have told you that if voting wasn't so important, they wouldn't be trying to move the goalpost on you guys. Please check your registration. It literally, if your registration has been purged, depending on where you live at, please register to vote. It takes less than a minute, actually. I've timed it. Even my friend over at Roomful of Blurs has done this and tried it and says it takes less than a minute. And also, you get to see what's on your ballot. Get election reminders. You can get other people on this. Again, I cannot stress this enough, guys, that we basically need to make sure we are ready to go by November 5th. And as you can see right there with the countdown, with November 5th, and yes, it also does early voting too. So if you do have early voting, take advantage of it. I know how hard it is to get out there and get to vote because apparently, those in Congress didn't believe that the National Election Day Act the National Voting Rights Act should have actually had Election Day as a federal holiday. I'm just saying. But again, check out vote.org. Please make sure you're registered. Please make sure you get your friends and family registered. I cannot stress this enough after just watching the debate last night, how much we need to make sure we are ready to go and vote. And again, I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm definitely not voting for a convict. Also, that being said, guys, check out blurstation.com. Again, I have said this many times. It is the vehicle. It is the table that we always ask for. Again, Tubi's owned by Fox, and I've sat there and said that our viewership creates networks. It creates it generates money is what it does. And I hate to see that money go to other places when it should be going to us. Blur Station is basically it. $10.99 a month, guys, to join. Please hit the join now button. Select the Blur's Eye View Affinity membership. Select my name, Black Spartan. I would certainly appreciate it. And again, it's $10.99 a month. At 36 months, you actually get the option to own a piece of Blur Station. But at the same time, if you are a content creator that would love to have your content on Blur Station, you do have to join as a member first. This allows you to basically go behind the curtain and speak with those that are running Blur Station. If all works out right, your content will also be on Blur Station that you own. They just want a piece of distribution. Not a bad deal. At the same time, guys, also check out Always Record TV. Again, you will see my show and other shows on Always Press Record TV. Definitely check them out at alwayspressrecord.com. You can also get their APR TV app on Roku and smart devices everywhere. It's like, again, you can see shows like mine. So again, check it out. Another area to where it's TV that we own and the space that we own, and the dollars should go to us. Nothing more needs to be said about that. Aside from myself, guys, you can find me, Black_Spartan615 on the socials, as I usually do reviews on everything. I talk about more than just current events, guys. The only rule I have is don't be weird. I don't want to block anybody. I don't want to have to keep this whole listing of weird folks. So again, talk to me nice, but don't be weird. At the same time, guys, please check out our websites. Check out our groups. How do you check out our groups? Well, the link here. If this link that you see here, if you copy and paste that in your browser, it'll take you to our link to the YouTube and Facebook groups for all of our podcasts. Like, share, subscribe. As a friend of mine says, a like, a share, and a follow costs nothing and means everything. So definitely we cannot do this without you. And again, guys, I cannot stress enough about what's coming down the pipe. You literally saw what that clown is talking about. You know about Project 2025, about Agenda 47. This man has no plan. His vice president can't seem to keep his thing out of couches. They think that Haitian people are eating cats and dogs. At the same time, they don't understand why women don't like them. I think it's time that we made history. And after 249 years of trying after 249 years of trying male presidents, I think we need to give a Madam President a shot. That's just me. But the last thing about how the Frack We Got Here, it's all about staying informed. We are not trying to reinvent the wheel. We are simply giving you all the information, allow you to make up your own mind. But we do provide a logical perspective that goes along with it. We do better as society once we're informed. We're progressive. We move forward. We try to right our wrongs by making decisions now that we should have done back then, like electing our first Black woman Supreme Court, electing our first Black woman to Federal Board of Governors, and hopefully in about less than 54 days, electing our first Black woman to be called Madam President. We don't learn from history. We are doomed to repeat it. That's what we keep asking ourselves. Why does everything go up but our paycheck? Why are we electing different politicians but still the same old game in Congress? And most importantly, how the Frack We Got Here. Thank you all for watching, guys. Again, get registered. Be ready to vote. Take care of yourselves and each other. And we'll hopefully get through all of this. Protect your cats and dogs.